The prince and his qualities. So before we start writing about the quality of prince, we should write one paragraph about the text prince, right? So should just start writing. That would be more fruitful, beneficial to us. Right, the prince is the most influential work The Prince is the most influential work in the history of political thought. The Prince is the most influential work in the history of political thought. It influenced many political philosophers in analyzing domestic politics, as well as international politics. Right? In the para and write in the Prince, Machiavelli explains the quality of prince, qualities of prince human nature, ends and means, and statecraft. Machiavelli justified all kind of manipulation, power politics, and means to achieve ends. To call someone Machiavellian, means teacher of evil. teacher of evil. And due to Machiavelli's devil approach, Shakespeare called him the murderer's Machiavelli. Murderer's Machiavelli. Shakespeare called him murderer's Machiavelli. Fine. Change the para and write. In The Prince, Machiavelli gives instruction to monarch. In The Prince, Machiavelli gives instruction to monarch. In The Prince, Machiavelli gives instruction to monarch on how to acquire power, and maintain political authority. How to behave with citizens, ministers, and how to deal with enemies. How to deal with enemy. Right. Machiavelli prescribed following qualities for the prince. Machiavelli prescribed following qualities for the prince. Qualities 1. Machiavelli prescribed following qualities for the prince. Qualities 1. Firstly, the prince should not touch property of his subject. Because man easily forget murderers of his father, but does not forget loss of his property. Loss of his property. Fine. right? When Machiavelli was writing Prince, continue it, don't change the para. When Machiavelli was writing Prince, the new entrepreneurs class were emerging. New entrepreneurs class were emerging in Italy. They supported this emerging entrepreneurial class. They supported the king to maintain law and order, and to give protection to their property. So, Ashwin, I hope you are writing this new emerging, what have you written? New emerging class.
Mandate the king to maintain law and order to give protection to the community.
Yeah. The new class, the new emerging trading class wanted security and relaxation in taxes. The new emerging trading class wanted security and relaxation in taxes. Right? That's what he said. The Machiavelli said the king should not touch the property of his subject. Right? Machiavelli advised change the para and right. Machiavelli advised the king that the prince can build his power on the weaknesses of human nature. Prince can build his power on the weakness of human nature. The prince can build his power on the weakness of human nature. Right. And the weakness of human nature is fear and insecurity. And the weakness of human nature is fear and insecurity. Fear and insecurity. Hence, prince can establish himself as a powerful. Prince can establish himself as a powerful as long as he provides security and maintains law and order. So third para you write. Okay. While Plato and Aristotle prescribed that knowledge is virtue. Machiavelli suggested that the virtue of the king is not knowledge. The virtue of the king is not knowledge, but his ability. The virtue of the king is not knowledge, but his ability to provide a sense of security. Virtue of the king is not knowledge, but his ability to provide a sense of security. In order to provide a security, in order to provide security, if the prince needs to do evil, in order to provide security, if the prince needs to do evil, comma, he must do. He must do. Fine? Change the para again and then write, explaining human nature. Explaining human nature. I don't need to apply this. I don't know. Are you getting my voice? So wait, yeah. I have not used this. Wait. I hope now it's better. I forgot to use this mic. Can you just ask from how many pages he needs to leave? 1.5. Everything is better? Okay. Okay, Shobit. Okay, Ashwin. Great. So, Kalika, explaining human nature, Machiavelli cited history. Explaining human nature, Machiavelli cited, C-I-T-E-D, cited, मतलब example देता था. Machiavelli cited history. He said that human nature remains same. Human nature remains same throughout the age. Throughout the age. And there is no chance to change it. There is no chance to change it in the future. There is no chance to change it in the future. Machiavelli argued that the prince must provide security to its people. Right? That is the quality number 1. It should provide security to people, should not touch property. Fine? Clear? Now write quality number 2. How prince should behave, or how do the prince behave? ये भी बिहेवियर का ही है कि अपने प्रजा की प्रॉपर्टी को छूना नहीं है, ठीक है, सबको सिक्योरिटी देना है. इंसान के किस तरह कैसे आपके अधीन में रहेगा जब तक वो इनसिक्योर है, right? Until the people are insecure, they will follow you, right? So provide security to the people. Quality number 2, right? Machiavelli suggested that, write it. Machiavelli suggested that the prince should possess 3 qualities. Machiavelli suggested that the prince should possess Three qualities. First, as Sobhit had rightly pointed out last day, right? He should be a clever like fox. He should be clever like a fox. To understand the trap. Right? It means prince should be cunning. It means the prince should be cunning. Right? A strategist. A strategist. Right? Trap trackers and trap trackers. पहली क्वालिटी है कि फॉक्स की तरह वो चालाक हो. Right? Second, he should have courage like a lion. First, second, he should be strong like a lion. He should be strong like lion. To defend from wolf. From wolf. Fine. You should be strong like lion to defend from wolf. Right. Okay. It is for the prince. For the prince, it is not enough to understand trap only. Trap only. But also important to attack. Important to attack the enemy. When needed. When needed. He should be warrior. He should be warrior. Fearless. कैसे lion fearless होता है? How lion is a fearless? Ruthless gangster. Ruthless or brutal attacker and cold-blooded murderer and cold-blooded murderer. Cold-blooded murderer. So he should be fox To understand the trap of his enemy, he should be a lion, right? He should be ruthless killer, right? Third, the quality quality he talks about, that is region, right? To balance the region and balance the trap and cunning and courageousness. Third, you write, he should possess region. He should possess region to balance between cunning and courage. Right? Balance between cunning and courage. He must know when and how to use power. When and how he should use power. Neither excess of courage nor excess of cunning is good. Neither excess of courage nor excess of cunning is good. Therefore, he should act in moderate behavior. Should act in moderate behavior. कि ज्यादा कनिंग भी ना होना है, ना ज्यादा फेरोसियस होना है, लाइन की तरह. He should act in a moderate behavior. He should balance between the, right? Change the para now. लिखिए. The Greek thinkers like Plato and Aristotle depicted reason and courage as a virtue. Greek political thinkers like Plato and Aristotle depicted reason and courage as a virtue, but Machiavelli added cunningness. Machiavelli added cunningness. Right? चलो, ये हो गया आपका कैसे बिहेव करना है उसको. थोड़ा और एक, fox symbolizes cunningness, lion symbolizes courage, ferocious. Wolf symbolizes enemy, right? A lion must have courage like to fight with the wolf, otherwise सारा मीट तो wolf ही खा जाएगा. wolf जंगल में कभी शिकार नहीं करता है, दूसरे की शिकार हुआ चीज खाता है वो. Do you know this thing? Wolf never do hunting, right? They snatch hunting of the others, right? Fine. Okay, so that is his idea about, now write qualities number 3. Quality number 3 होगा ना. फर्स्ट तो 2 हो चुके हैं, ये तीसरा है. Qualities third. Qualities third. How prince should rule. How do the prince rule? कैसे काम करता है, कैसे, right? Machiavelli suggested the prince to stay away from subjects, women and their property. Subjects, women, property and woman. Right? He should select his army and officers very carefully. He should select army and officers very carefully, and he should try to expand the state's territory. He should make alliance with the other state, right? Never remained in isolation. He should make alliance with other state. He should never follow the policy of neutrality. He should never follow the policy of neutrality. He should never follow the policy of neutrality. He should take one side and fight the war honestly. And he should take one side and fight the war honestly. Otherwise, he will be prey. Otherwise, he will become prey to the victor. Yeah, जो जीतता है. To the victor, if follow the policy of neutrality. You should make alliance. Now, to whom you should make alliance? With a stronger party or with the weak party? Machiavelli suggests ally with the weak. Why? He said, if you win the war, the entire winning is yours. If you lost the war, you accuse the weaker for everything. And the victor will get everything from the weak party, and you will be saved. In both the cases, you will be benefited. Right? You will be in benefit. Right? Machiavelli suggests that make alliance with weak neighbor. Weak neighbor. Weak neighbor. Make alliance with weak neighbor rather than with a strong one. The prince would get more. The prince would get more in the case of winning. In the case of winning, and lose less in the case of defeat. In the case of defeat. Right? Change the para and write. Machiavelli suggested to the prince that he should fight with law and force. With law and force. He should use law. He should use law to fight with a civilized state. And force in order to fight a barbarian state. Force to fight with the civilized state. To law, he should use law to fight with the civilized state, and he should use force in order to fight with a barbarian state. Or He may combine the both, law and force. Or he may combine the both, law and force. Fine. Change the para and write, the prince should not be so generous or not strict. The prince should be neither generous nor strict. He should eliminate all the family members of his enemy, including child. He should eliminate all the family members of his enemy, including child. Fine? Clear? He must possess courage and reason. He must possess courage and reason. R-E-A-S-O-N. Yeah, reason. R-E-A-S-O-N. इसका अलग अलग मतलब होता है. There are following region. उसमें वो अलग region हो जाता है. When you say region, that means the mind. Right? क्या लिखा? Along with cunningness to avoid threat and to win war. He must not appear as changeable. He must not appear as a changeable, superficial, fearful. He must avoid these qualities. He must avoid these qualities. He should give impression of great. He should give impression of greatness, serious, spirit, and powerful. He must preside over disputes. Presides over disputes. झगड़े का फैसला करना है उनको. He must preside over disputes and take final decision. As much as his reputation is great, he would be respected. ठीक है, ये हो गया क्वालिटी नंबर 3. नाउ एक और क्वालिटी नंबर 4. एक्चुअली सारी क्वालिटी डिपेंड्स ऑन क्वेश्चंस. व्हाट क्वेश्चंस इज आस्क्ड. जैसे क्वेश्चन पूछे वैसे आपको आंसर देना है. नाउ क्वालिटी नंबर 4. यू कैन सी समवेयर देयर मे बी ओवरलैपिंग. आपको लग रहा होगा कि अच्छा वो तो पहले हमने लिख लिया था. राइट, इट हैपेंस. Right, Machiavelli suggested to the prince that the prince must guard against two kind of danger. The prince must guard against two kind of danger. Two kind of dangers. First, internal danger. Second, external. अभी भी बात करते थे internal security. Right? Today we talk about internal security. Do we talk about internal security in foreign policy? आपके सिलेबस में है security या internal security नाम है कुछ? Internal security. Yeah. So he must focus on the threat coming from the internal, right? And one threat that is coming from external, right? Okay. To defend from foreign power. To defend from foreign power, the prince need a good army and good allies. To defend from foreign power or to defend from foreign attack, the prince needs a good army and a good allies or good friends. If the prince have good army, he can acquire good allies. When the prince has good army, he can have good allies. Right? When there is no threat, from external, comma, the prince must look into subject that whether they are not conspiring against him. Must look into subjects whether they are not conspiring or plotting against him, right? He can make his subject happy. He can make his subject happy. And this is the way he can terminate any threat coming from internal, right? लिख लिया? What क्या लिखा? From internal, not external. Coming from internal. Right? He should keep his people satisfied. And must do welfare to the people. Now look at his idea. So he's focusing on internal, and he said when there is no threat from external, there is no fear of attack from the external, the prince should concentrate on the internal matter, right? He must look at subjects, he look at their welfare, right? He should make the citizen happy, so that citizen should not go for plotting or conspiracy against him. This is the one way he can terminate or the threat coming from internal. What about external? Right? External. Look here. The king should avoid blaming. The king should avoid blaming nobles. नोबल्स मतलब होता है अच्छे लोग जो उनके आसपास हैं. नोबल्स the king should avoid accusing nobles or people, right? He should should not give priority to anyone. He shouldn't give priority to anyone and must introduce a body politic like parliament or constitution. He must introduce a body politic like parliament or constitution that keeps nobles and people at their place. पार्लियामेंट बनाइए, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बनाइए, वही सबका निपटारा करेगा, आप मत कुछ कीजिए. He should not personally take any responsibility of all failure. He should not personally take any responsibility of failure. Change the para and write, the ruler who wants to stay in power, the rulers who wants to stay in power, stay-in power, S-T-A-Y. The ruler who wants to stay in power should elect or should appoint, not elect, appoint nobles, ministers, military, and must look carefully that they should not be corrupt. He must please army officers. He must please army officers and impress them. ठीक है, डन, क्वालिटीज डन है. एक चीज क्वालिटी बताई थी उन्होंने, कहाँ गया पेन, कहाँ गया, राइट, व्हाट ही सेड, लक. उन्होंने बोला कि लक क्या है, व्हाट इज लक? लक इज इफेमिनेट, लक इज लाइक फेमिनिन. व्हाट इज लक? लक कुछ नहीं होता, लाइक लक होता है लाइक अ लेडी, राइट? A lady loves a strong man. That is his imagination. A lady loves a strong man. Similarly, luck's favor only to strong man. Right? It does, love to only a strong man. Fine. So luck is nothing like it is like effeminate. Right? So you have to just constantly work on it. ये हो गया हमारा क्वालिटी इनका. Now we need to write Machiavelli's statecraft. Machiavelli statecraft. क्या आइडिया है इनका statecraft का? Are you Ashwin writing? Shobhit?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Good. देखिए, The Prince is a classical text. The Prince is a classical text. Like Machiavelli नहीं, क्या नाम था उनका? Kautilya. Like Kautilya, Machiavelli explains how to run a state. How to run a state. Machiavelli suggested Machiavelli suggested following component for a state. Following, for a state. First, right, good army. Good army. Second, good law. Good army, good law. Third, fortress. Fourth, trade and commerce. Fifth, ministers. Ministers. Fine. Now we need to write one by one. In good army, he divided army into three types. एक तो citizenry army. Citizenry army क्या होता है? The army that you develop from your own citizen. Then second is called auxiliary army. Your allies army, that is called auxiliary army. And the third army is called mercenaries army. You have borrowed army, right? You have taken army on rent. Right, so write one by one point. First, good army. Machiavelli divided army into three types. Machiavelli divided army into three types: citizenry, second, mercenaries, and third is auxiliaries. Third is auxiliaries. Okay, for Machiavelli, mercenaries and auxiliaries armies are useless. For Machiavelli, mercenaries and auxiliaries armies are useless and dangerous. उन्होंने बोला कि ये दोनों आर्मी बकवास है. Mercenaries and auxiliaries are useless and dangerous. They are very ambitious and undisciplined. They are very ambitious and very undisciplined and disloyal. They are very ambitious and undisciplined and disloyal. Disloyal लिख लिया. देखिए, the prince पैरा चेंज करके, the prince must prepare its own citizenry army. The prince must prepare its own citizenry army. He himself is a commander. He himself acts as a commander. A sensible ruler, he himself acts as a commander. A sensible ruler must avoid auxiliaries and mercenaries. must avoid mercenaries and auxiliaries. Machiavelli said, it is better to lose the battle. Machiavelli said that it is better to lose battle with citizenry army. It is better to lose battle with citizenry army rather than winning war with mercenaries and auxiliaries. Rather than winning war with mercenaries and auxiliaries. Right? Change the para and write, a ruler must think about war. A ruler must think about war, even in the peace time. Even in the time of peace or peace time, whatever you run. Even in the time of peace, he must prepare for it. He must prepare for it. He must prepare for it, and his preparation should be intense in the time of peace. Right? He should train his army. He should train his army physically as well as mentally. He should train his army physically as well as mentally. Right? He must be aware. He must be aware about geographical terrain. Geographical terrain. Terrains of his territory, like river, plains, mountains, valley, hills. He must be aware about the terrains of in his territory, like hills, rivers, plains, mountain. Right? He must think about military strategy during the time of peace. He must think about military strategy during the time of peace. Fine. हो गया? Change the para and write, along with good army, a ruler must have a good law. A good law. Along with good army, a ruler must have a good law in order to maintain social order, in order to maintain social order and promote harmony. And promote harmony. Right? So he should make law. He should not make law. He should not make law that discourages. He should not make law that discourages trade and commerce. He should not make law that discourages trade and commerce. A ruler must support the new emerging trading class and give them security. So this was the second one, good laws. हाँ, मैंने लिखवाना भूल गया थोड़ा, ये सेकंड था आपका. एक तो है गुड आर्मी, दूसरा है गुड लॉज. एक ही पैरा गुड लॉज के बारे में लिखा है, ठीक है. So that is second point. गुड आर्मी एक तो लिखा दिया पहली बार, लेकिन यहां पर हमने था ना गुड आर्मी, गुड लॉस, थर्ड लिखिए फोर्ट्रेस. समझ में आया? लिखिए फोर्ट्रेस. Fortress. A ruler must build fortress. Build. A ruler must build B-U-I-L-D, must build fortress to curb and discourage aggressors. Attackers लिख लीजिए. Attackers. If ruler is afraid of his own people, he must build a strong fort. But if he is not fearful of his own citizen, then he should not build fort for his own self. क्या बोला कि अगर एक ऐसा है, पहले समझ लीजिए, उसने कहा कि ऐसा है कि अगर आपको लगता है कि जनता आपके साथ कॉन्स्पिरेसी कर सकती है, if you think ruler, if you think that your citizen may go for plotting or conspiracy against you, you must build a strong fort. But if your citizen is with you, then you don't need a fort for your own self. Why? Because these citizens are the strongest fort against the aggressor, against your enemy. Right? So कहाँ तक लिखा? चल, why लिखिए, क्वेश्चन दीजिए, why? The Machiavelli suggested that if citizens are happy, then they are the best fortress. fort for the king. Right? The king must be aware. The king must be aware and informed that the citizen is not hating him. Right? So therefore, happiness and welfare is necessary in Machiavelli's state. In Machiavelli's state, Machiavelli कहता है कि happiness रहना चाहिए citizen के. Citizen must be happy, right? So that they can protect you. Now you can write fourth, trade and commerce. If you go through the entire Prince, is very thin book, right? बहुत बात है trade and commerce की. Why do you know why trade and commerce he had given importance to this trade and commerce? You see, this time new emerging class was developing, new entrepreneurship class, new innovation was coming up, and this was the time you see, society was changing, right? And entirely changed in 16th century when you see there are feudalism to capitalism. We'll talk about that later on when I'll talk about Hobbes. The entire things were changed. So Machiavelli supported this emerging trading class, right? And he advised to the king that the king should not touch the property of his subject, right? Should not touch the subjects of women. Fine. Trade and commerce लिखा. देखिए, the prince must ensure that the citizens can do business without fearful. The citizen can do business without fear and worry. They must be allowed to start new business. They must be allowed to start new business and should not be taxed. Should not be taxed excessively. होते ना excessively tax करते हैं. They should not tax excessively. A ruler should support and give incentive to people who do business and bring prosperity to the state. A ruler should support and give incentive to the people क्या लिखा? To the people who do business and bring prosperity to the state. कहानी यही है, समझ गए ना कि ऐसे इंसानों को, ऐसे क्लास को आप हेल्प करो, मदद करो. कौन रूलर करेगा? जो इकोनॉमी में, जो बिजनेस में कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहा है, जो प्रॉस्पेरिटी में हेल्प कर रहा है, right? They should not be taxed excessively, punitively, right? They must be protected and sense of security must be established. So that why it is necessary? Because without economy you cannot run the state. Fine. Now next you write minister. Fifth is minister. Last is ministers. छोटी सी पतली सी किताब है प्रिंस, चैप्टर 7th 8th में आप देखेंगे कि खूब ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स की बात करिए. That's I have included in this. Fine. Ministers लिखिए. The ministers is a very important component of the state. Ministers are a very important component for the state. The ruler himself appoint a good minister. A good minister having capacity and loyalty. But if a minister criticized by citizen, then the ruler or the prince must change his minister. Right? Fine? No, if a minister is not good, if they are being criticized by citizen, if people are not happy with that minister, then the king should remove that minister. Yeah, so now the next sentence is coming. The minister should not be flattered. The minister should not be flattered. F-L-A-T-T-E-R. The minister should not be flattered. Right? The king should choose intelligent minister and give them a special task. He should not listen to anyone, only a specific task. Yeah. The king should not listen anyone except the intelligent ministers. The king should not listen anyone except intelligent ministers. Right? लिखिए, अब पैरा चेंज करके लिखिएगा. Therefore, Machiavelli suggests the king to establish a good state, or to run a good state with the help of a good army, a good law. जो भी 4-5 पॉइंट लिखा है हमने वो लिख देना है. Good army, good law, good allies, good policies, and excellent ministers. अब मुझे पूछ लेने दीजिए आप लोग को समझ में आया कि नहीं आया. सिंपल कहानी है. Nothing is prescribing some idea to the minister. क्योंकि oh minister, you must have this point, right? If you want to run state better. Clear, Shobet, Ashwin, making sense? Fine. So we have done Machiavelli, right? Yeah. So, yeah, he said, they can fight at any point of time because they are on rent. They are getting money they may be motivated for more money, and they may fight among each other, or again, you know, can fight against you, and you cannot do anything, right? They may colonize you, right? They may corrupt, because their purpose is not to save you, the purpose is the money, and that's why it's not good. Allies that is mercenaries, right? The army on rank. Allies army, you know, he think allies army or auxiliaries army is better than mercenaries. First is citizenry army, right? The army developed from the citizens. Second is auxiliaries. Third is mercenaries. So mercenaries is the worst form of army, right? Allies, you can take the help of ally, but when it is very need, as he suggested to a prince that, okay, make ally, right? Go for the balance of power, make alliance with the neighbor country, and with the weak neighbor country. अगर strong होगा तो क्या होगा? अगर हारोगे तो सारा तुम्हारा वो भी तुम्हें कोई करना पड़ेगा सब कुछ, right? तो अगर आपने allies लिया तो वो भी क्या करेगा? वो भी आपका ही शेयर खाएगा और कुछ नहीं करेगा. Fine. Now write assessment of Machiavelli. Assessment of Machiavelli. This is third class on Machiavelli. Yeah, ना? I have to finish this. Yeah. ज़्यादा नहीं ले सकते ना, टाइम उधर हमारा लैग कर जाएगा. लिखिए. Assessment of Machiavelli. दो तीन बातें कही जाती है Machiavelli का. Machiavelli was a child of his time. Machiavelli was a child of his time. Second, Machiavelli's philosophy was narrowly dated and narrowly located. Machiavelli's philosophy was narrowly dated and narrowly located. Third thing that is said about Machiavelli, that Machiavelli was father of modern thought. Was the father of modern thought. Fine. Machiavelli was a child of his time. Second, Machiavelli was philosophy was narrowly dated and narrowly located. Machiavelli was a father of modern thought. Now, if you think about, if we discuss the first statement, that Machiavelli was a child of his time. Every philosopher, you know, it is true for everyone, every philosopher. For example, we think about Plato. When we talk about Plato, Plato was not about to become philosopher, right? Plato was not become to philosopher. His two, you know, uncle was active politician. He was from aristocratic family, right? But the entire context changed the Plato, and he became a philosopher. Similarly, if you see the Machiavelli, you know, Machiavelli was chancellor, right? And the entire, if you see the context of that, his contemporary time, Italy was fragmented, right? And Florence, or not only Florence, the small state was a you know a easy prey for the outsider, for example, Spain, for France, right? And papal state was dangerous, right? And if you look at the other factor like Renaissance influenced this man, Machiavelli, a lot, right? So, and he was very influenced from, ancient Roman history and Greek philosophy, right? So he proposed the idea, when he influenced with the several ideas of his time, and this formula applies to every political philosopher. कुछ भी पूछ देगा, मान लिख देगा, Plato was a child of his time. Was child of his time, right? What will you do in this type of question? You need to write about the context of that thinker, right? And little bit about his writing. If you look at Plato or Aristotle, both rejected the idea of democracy because they were affected, adversely affected by the democracy. Their life was adversely affected by democracy, right? Plato's teacher was killed by democracy, right? 500 judges killed, persecuted Socrates. Fine. So किसी भी अगर कोई भी philosopher है उसके लिए पूछता है, you have to give treatment of such kind. Making sense, Tai? Pakka? Huh? Yeah, Shobhit, Ashwin, getting the idea? If any question comes like this, you have to give the treatment, right? Now, start writing about Machiavelli. जो ये question है, Machiavelli was a child of his time, right? Right, every thinker, right answer. Every thinker is a child of his time. Every thinker is a child of his time. This quotation is best suitable for Machiavelli. Every thinker is a child of his time, and this quotation is best suitable for Machiavelli. He was from Florence. He was from Florence, and Florence was epicenter of Renaissance. Florence was epicenter of Renaissance. Epicenter का क्या मतलब होता है? जहां से वो शुरुआत होती है, right? Epicenter basically we talked about when there's an earthquake. When we talk about epicenter, right? The very much center of the birth. Talika. He was from Florence, and Florence was epicenter of Renaissance, right? It was natural for Machiavelli. It was natural for Machiavelli to be influenced by Renaissance. By Renaissance. Right? Change the para and write. In his contemporary time, Machiavelli was influenced by several factors. Italy was divided in small states, small states, and fighting each other Italy was divided in small states and fighting each other. The church state wanted to continue dominance, and this is why the church state was inviting foreign power, and this is why the church state was inviting foreign powers to attack on states, right? Machiavelli lost his chancellorship because Spain attacked on Florence in 1512. Machiavelli lost his chancellorship because Spain attacked Florence in 1512. He was not happy with either the church state or the ruling elite of his contemporary time. Right? Change the para and write. Machiavelli analyzed human psychology. Rather than religious text. Machiavelli analyzed human psychology rather than religious text. He loved history. He loved Roman history. ऐसे करके लिखिए. He loved Roman history and Greek literature. He tried to revive Greek political culture. He revived Greek political culture, right? That is region, logic, and deliberation. He gave priority to region over religion. He wanted to unite Italy. Right? His effort, EFFORT, his effort led the development of modern nation state. Scientific attitude, scientific attitude, right? He was a pioneer of secular and tolerant state. Right? He was the person who subordinated religion under the authority of state. Under the authority of the state. He subordinated religion under the authority of state. He gave philosophy right, to build a strong nation state. To build a strong nation state. Change the para and write, we can say that few trends like secularism, intolerance, individual liberty, idea of property, all started with Renaissance. And Machiavelli was its product. All started with Renaissance and Machiavelli was its product. Machiavelli was truly a child of his time. ठीक है? टॉलरेंस, इंटॉलरेंस नहीं, टॉलरेंस. इंटॉलरेंस तो फिर नेगेटिव हो जाएगा, वो तो थियोक्रेटिक में होता है. टॉलरेंस, मैंने इंटॉलरेंस लिखवाया क्या? नो, टॉलरेंस. सेक्युलरिज्म, टॉलरेंस, राइट, मॉडर्न नेशन स्टेट, इनको काट दीजिए. फाइन. दैट स्टार्टेड विथ इंडिविजुअल लिबर्टी. That started with Renaissance, and Renaissance was Machiavelli. He was a product of Renaissance. So Machiavelli was a child of his time. Fine. Done writing. Okay. Now one more thing that the pen. मैंने इधर रखा है. The second statement I talked about, that Machiavelli's philosophy was narrowly dated and narrowly located. There's one book by Sabine. He wrote a book, History of Political Thought and Theory, and in this book he blamed Machiavelli that his thinking is narrowly located and narrowly dated. It has no universal application. Right? किसने कहा? सेबाइन ने कहा. किसी थिंकर है, कोई राइटर है, उसने कहा. Now if you look at, as we have studied that, his idea, he was a product of Renaissance, right? He has given some idea, but his idea is not universal like Plato or Aristotle, right? But it is partially true. If you look at Machiavelli's theory, right, or his idea. Now, even if you know international relation, there is one school of thought that is called realism. आपके सिलेबस में है. There is one school of thought in international relation that is called realism, and it believes that all politics, whether domestic or international, is a politics for power. किसने कहा all politics is nothing but, or politics is nothing but politics struggle for power? It is a Machiavelli, right? So his accusation to the Machiavelli that his thought was narrowly dated and narrowly located is not correct. It is a partially correct, because Machiavelli was a product of Renaissance, right? And whatever the idea he's given, it was particularly located to the Europe, Italy, right? But it is a partial truth. It is a partial truth. Fine. Whatever he has given idea, which is very important even in today's world. Fine. तो इसको करना कैसे है? इसमें नोट्स में है आपका. Machiavelli was narrowly dated and narrowly located. You can see from there, right? You read it and make in your notes. Simply वही मैं लिखवाना हूं. दूसरा और एक चीज कर लेंगे कि Machiavelli was a father of modern thought. Now if you look at, yeah, राघव अभी आए हो. Now I have seen you. Anyway, so just we are ending the class. After 10 minutes, yes, after 10 minutes we will end it. Now, any question पहले बता दीजिए. कोई सवाल है तो मुझे बताइए, then I will talk about. We have talked about Machiavelli, right? We talked about some context of his time, like what was medieval age, right? What was Renaissance, when we talked about Machiavelli's writing, right? He wrote few texts like Art of War, Discourses, History of Florence, and The Prince. But we need to study only one, that is The Prince, right? In the book Prince, he talked about key idea like ends and means, religion and politics, right? Quality for the prince, statecraft, we discussed. Then we also did some, analysis that some said that Machiavelli was a child of his time. We done. Secondly, George Sabine. George Sabine accused Machiavelli that his thought is narrowly dated and narrowly located, right? It is partially truth, but it is not truth, right? If you see that one theory in international relation today, very dominant relation theory, very dominant theory, right? That is called realism. Are you aware of that? Are you aware of that? Little bit, right? That school of thought in international relation inherits tradition from the Machiavelli. उसका roots कहाँ पे है? Machiavelli में है. So it is not that his thought is partially, is narrowly dated and narrowly located, right? It is relevant even today's time. Fine. Now, father of modern thought. Father of modern thought. How we can say truly about Machiavelli that he is a father of modern thought? When we started our class, we started with medieval and modernity. What was the difference between medieval and modernity? If you look at medieval time, right, this time was dominated by what kind of society was that? Feudal society, right? What kind of economy it was? Agrarian, What was the territorial unit? It was empire. Okay. What was the role of religion? Religion was very important. The state used to be theocratic. The state used to be theocratic. What do you mean by theocratic state? A state who declares its official religion. For example, Pakistan in the current time, or Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a Buddhist state, right? So you can call theocratic state a state which declares its official religion, right? If you see the medieval time, Pope used to be very power center of power, center of power, right? And the state used to be largely theocratic. Now look at modernity. It was age of empire, right? He thought about modern nation state. He talks about modern nation state. Now still modern nation state is an institution as a territorial unit, as a state. Now he was a theocratic in medieval time. That was theocratic. He talked about secularism and toleration. Right? Society was feudal. In feudal society, individual liberty has no importance. In feudal society, individual liberty has no importance. So they give you example, right? For example, when you see your society is too feudal or feudal, then the society may not allow you to marry outside of the society. Have you heard about honor killing? Honor killing. Why honor killing happens? Because the feudal minded people, they don't allow, right, woman or man to marry outside of the community, right? And that is why individual has no liberty in a feudal society. Now Machiavelli is talking about individual liberty. Individual liberty. Now if you look at medieval age, one more, yeah, the economy was agrarian. Economy was agrarian. He is talking about new entrepreneur class. New entrepreneur class, new trading class that the prince should protect and should not impose taxes heavily because they bring prosperity. Got the idea? Fine. So if you see, his entire idea reflects that he is a father of modern political thought. Because if you see, and Renaissance, he is talking about religion rather than religion. He is talking about religion. He gives priority to religion rather than religion. Right? He also talks about, subordination of religion under the state's authority. Till today, in practice, the religious authority is under the subordination of the political authority. Right? Whether it is a West country or the India. Got the idea? Fine. Can you write answer? Did you get the idea? समझ में आया? ये सब आज का फीचर है मॉडर्न नेशन स्टेट. It is still today. It is very relevant. Right? If you talk about entrepreneurs or individual liberty, right? We cherish individual liberty. We love freedom. Right? Isn't it? Then secularism is a characteristic of modern state, right? Then region. So he disassociated with, right? But disassociation is not easy. It's not so easy. Fine. So you can say that the Machiavelli was a father of modern political thought. Fine. So दो चीजें आपको लिखनी है. First, Machiavelli's philosophy was narrowly dated. Narrowly dated and narrowly located. You can use the text. Okay, text public हो गया. अब एक दो दिन कल आ जाना चाहिए. Right? देखिए. दूसरा, you can write question, comment. क्या है कमेंट में? खुद भी बोल के. Yeah, Machiavelli was a father of modern political thought. Was a father of modern political thought. Whatever you have understood, write it. The question. Whatever you have understood, you write it. And when we'll talk about Hobbes, Locke, then we'll contextualize. थोड़ा अभी simple answer लिखिए. Right? Fine. Dilip, Tai. Yes, Ashwin, Sobit. Sobit, making alliance can also be regarded as his idea. Yeah, balance of power. You are right. Balance of power. कहाँ गया वो सर्किल? चला गया. Yeah, making alliance was also balance of power. Yes, you are right. You are right, Shobit. You know, BOP. Balance of power. Making alliance with, right, with your neighbor country. Right? Even today, we give priority to that balance of power. Right? So you need to write on it. Fine. Tomorrow we will start. I will start again Hobbes, but before Hobbes, we will talk about context. Right? Without context, it is, you know, worthless to read text. है ना? So context समझना है, फिर text को हम समझ पाएंगे.